Hello, June. How are you, love? All right. See you after. Hey? All right. We're ready then.
Michael Philip Jagger, leader of the Rolling Stones for 10 years. He's on his way to another Australian concert. He's feeling the strain of performing in extreme heat in open-air venues.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Rolling Stones.
But the tour is going well. The Stones have been living up to their reputation as the world's #1 rock group. The only disappointments have been for the press. No hotel sieges, no mass hysteria, and no major scandals. On the Australian tour, the music was to be more important than the headlines. First of the 2 press conferences scheduled for Australia. Most of the Stones' touring party, or STP as their identification badges read, were there to meet the media.
I'm never together drinking soda.
Leslie Perrin, public relations man for the Stones and known by them as Lunchtime. His other clients include John and Yoko, Frank Sinatra, the British Legal Association, and almost the Cray twins. He arrived 10 days before the group to coordinate press relations.
6:30. Soda water. Oh, left, right. Channel 10.
Peter Rudge, the Rolling Stones manager, the tour commander, the ringmaster. He has complete authority, which usually goes unquestioned. He looks and acts like a Cambridge Rugby Union coach. The roles are probably not dissimilar.
How long do you gentlemen feel that you will be?
3 or 4 minutes. Yeah, it'll be only be 3 or 4 minutes.
We discussed this.
5 minutes.
Hello.
Second on the left, Nicky Hopkins, pianist, one of the 3 extra musicians who now perform regularly with the Stones. Next to him, Keith Richard, guitarist and songwriter, maybe the creative genius within the group. Deadly nightshade, he won't live to 70.
What are we going to do? We're going to do one at a time?
Yeah.
One at a time, right?
Channel 7 first.
In the foreground, Bill Wyman, bass man, is planning an album of his own this year. Perhaps he'll be the first to leave the Stones. On the far right, Leroy Leonard, Mick's personal bodyguard. He's always on stage and gathers the clothes and jewels that Mick discards. Mick Taylor, guitarist, ex-John Mayall. He is into the music more than the performance. Jagger treats him gently, for he seems rather fragile.
Bill?
Charlie Watts, drummer. Audiences seem to identify strongly with him. On the surface, he seems the most approachable, yet he's easily bored. At press conferences, he relates more to his glass of Blue Nun.
Tends to be the figurehead. So we've got your records of something happening in the background. As a matter of fact, this is a great help. We talk to you, Keith. This, you know, with respect, you look a bit like the regular Hesperus with the kind of gear you wear. But is that an effeminate gear that you've got on? You know, I mean, it's easy to be offensive, right? All I was asking was why you dress as you do.
Well, then don't be offensive.
No, I'm not intending to be. I'm trying to find
No,
out
you're
why
doing
you
very
dress
well.
as well.
You are,
Well,
yeah.
I'm sorry that it appears to be offensive. You know.
It's all right. We just dressed up a bit for you today, that's all.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you make yourself so accessible to the press? This is something that a lot of Australians were expecting, this sort of really big gap between the Stones and the press.
Well, I don't know on what they based that, because we were always very accessible to the press last time we were here. The truth is, in Australia, that there's so many press here that you really have to sort of might as well do them. Though some of them are rude, really rude, and like you spend a lot of time with them, and like they're really nice to you, and then they turn out to be total hypocrites because all they want to do is write an article putting you down. So you feel, why do I bother? I mean, it's only 2 days out of the whole tour cut.
It was common knowledge that the Rolling Stones were staying at Sydney's Kingsgate Hotel, but there were no screaming fans breaking down doors as there were in 1965. The Stone security guards had only one problem to deal with: a middle-aged American tourist couple who tried to force themselves on Jagger, causing members of the Stones' entourage to get stuck in the lift. Lillian Roxon, rock journalist working out of New York, in Australia covering the Stones tour.
Oh, well, I think this is very tame here. I mean, the American tour was full of people crying and hysterical groupies and lots of Mick, 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 Mick. All that. This is very tame here, very quiet. Australians get more excited about Slade and Cat Stevens. I don't understand it. You know, is it because the Stones haven't been exposed enough here lately? I haven't worked it out. I mean, I've been staying at the hotel 3 floors below him, and I don't see groupies running down in the elevator lift trying to get him. I don't see kids crowding the lobbies.
There's been nothing
all
like that.
I mean, I like girls, you know. I mean, I've been. What can I say? I like in some places you get the girls in hotels, and some places the security's so good you don't. I mean, in the American tour, you know, you get a lot of girls.
You could always call the security off.
Yeah, but, you know, I don't really care, you know. But I mean, whatever happens, happens, you know. I just take it all as it comes. You know? When we were going to Japan, it was going to be a really, like, teeny bopper scene. In Hawaii, it's really, really young, you know.
It's gone far beyond that.
12 to 12-year-olds in Hawaii. Last week, it was 2 weeks ago. It's different in each country, you know.
Peter Rudge, the tour manager. What does he think of the absence of Australian kids trying to break the security?
In America, we didn't have anything. We didn't have any kids rushing in or out. I mean, is it strange? I mean, did Slade have a lot of kids rushing in and out?
They seem to have created more hysteria than the Stones have done. You know, they seem so sort of well-organised and so mellow with the whole thing, really.
Yeah, well, that's what we've tried to, you know, that's exactly what we've tried to do. If 3 or 4 kids run across the tarmac when the Rolling Stones arrive, it sometimes does get interpreted as wild, hysterical scenes in the newspapers next day. And Mr. Jagger's problem, the Rolling Stones' problem, is that they are a bit famous and well known. And you know, if Fred Hubbard and the Blues Boys arrived in Australia and they were mobbed by 300 kids, it'd probably get 2 lines. But if Mick Jagger was embraced by a 60-year-old grandmother when he got to Melbourne Airport, it might possibly be interpreted as a riot.
The Rolling Stones tour rocks into Melbourne this weekend. And to mark this great rock event, 3XY are giving away giant full-colour Rolling Stones tour posters and car stickers. They're available free from Walsh's Jeans Dungeon, corner of Swanston and Burke Street City. It's just another free Stones goodie from your official Rolling Stone station.
Hello, this is Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones on 3.
Melbourne's Tullamarine Airport is deserted, although one Melbourne newspaper has released flight details of the Rolling Stones' arrival. The 26-member entourage who had flown into Australia with 10 tons of equipment has collected an extra 16 people, mainly security guards, in Sydney. The only crowds are here to greet is Beatitude Maximus V, Melkite Patriarch of Antioch in the Orient, in Melbourne for the Eucharistic Congress. Did you go out to the airport at all when the Stones arrived?
No.
Why not? Don't you think they're worth that?
No, I listen to their music.
That's all you're interested in? Do you think a lot of people then aren't prepared to sort of go do that thing like going to the airport, trying to get autographs, going to the hotel, hiding in lifts?
Yeah, they did.
I think we're growing out of that myself. I think, you know, like that was back in the Beatles days, you know. People don't do it anymore. They come to hear their music more.
If he wasn't a rock musician, he would still be, you know, the celebrity he is now, without a question, without any doubt at all. And therefore the pressures from that angle are immense on this tour. And it's one of my big moans all the time is that this isn't a rock and roll tour. It almost becomes impossible to run it like a rock and roll tour. You can't just walk on any plane. You can't just shamble into any hotel and hang around the lobby. You can't just walk down the street because, I mean, when he goes to a concert, you know, it's on the front page of the paper, which is fine. But, I mean, there's very other few, you know, the Beatles maybe, that would get that type of spread on a major newspaper just because he rolled up, quite unannounced, at a concert, you know, 2 hours after he got to Melbourne.
There was some comment in Rolling Stone in the article following the American tour. The music was almost a byproduct. In fact, that was said by Peter Rudge, that it was sort of between gigs, you know, which is the exciting time of being with the Stones.
No, that's sort of, for me, it's bullshit. I mean, for me, the exciting part is playing, you know, the rest of it's just hanging out and just living in hotels, and which is really dull. And you try and make it interesting, you know, you play, you think of everything to do, you can go out, and usually when you go out it's a drag because like you get very selective about what you want to do. I mean, I don't like going out to just sort of, you always go and you always end up in the wrong place, you know.
Like you were saying like last night.
Whatever, you know, you just end up in the wrong place with the wrong girl, you know. And you wish, I think I should stay at home and played records. It's better, you know.
This is home in Melbourne, interchangeable with any other luxury hotel. It's where, at 3 a.m, Anna Menzies types up the daily information sheet for the entourage, what's arranged for each day, and what vitamin pills to take. Entertainment is usually confined to the 2 floors that the touring party occupies, and there's not much use made of the cars, ready to take them anywhere at any hour. Those who spend most of their time out of the hotel are the tour heavyweights, the technicians and sound men. It's a matter of adjusting the basic stage, sound and lighting equipment to the local venue. The production manager for both the American and Australian tours is Patrick Stansfield.
I look at the venues and I meet the managers, meet the electrical contractors and the local personnel, the key people, give measurements, and there's just a million details that people want clarified, you see. Then I come back with the crew and, well, we supervise the setup. most places we aren't as fortunate as we are in Australia to have a permanent crew that travels with us. We have one promoter here. Normally we have a different promoter every 2 or 3 shows.
Have changed incredibly over the years. How have your attitudes changed then into your songwriting?
You just write about what you see and what you feel, and that's what I do, you know. So, you know, I mean, most of American lyric writers over the last 5 years, all they've done is write about peace in Vietnam, you know. So I wonder what they're going to write about now. You know? I mean, I just, you know, I mean, the traditional sort of rock and roll song or pop song is like just about women, you know, or love, or. But I mean, that's a pretty good tradition, you know.
So what are you feeling, sort of in a radical way or a sexual way? You know, you've never really got into a lot of political stuff. The Stones never have, and there was fairly, you know, sexually based songs.
Yeah, well, I've always felt more sexual than political, you know. I could never get that worked up about Edward Heath, you know. I mean, so it's, you know, just whatever reaches you first, you know. So I guess I'm kind of short-sighted. Mostly it's between me and Mick. But you usually find that a song is usually written like 80–90% by one person, you know. And we usually help, you know. I mean, Mick comes to me and say, look, I got this, and I say, well, I've got one like that, you know. So we sort of stick them both together and see if they work out, you know. And but usually a song is written over 50% by one person, you know, and then the other, somebody, you know, either I'll help Mick or Mick will add a bit to one of mine, you know, and we'll get it together like that.
It's very different when you're playing on your own, in a home, you know, and sort of humming to yourself, and playing with like 5 people, because all the riffs that you play become different, and they get turned around, the beat changes, you suddenly discover that this works and this doesn't work, and you make this up, you put this together. Oh, you know, and then you come out with what you've written, which may or may not work, or it may be too slow, and you sort of double the time. I always write, all my songs are always too slow. I mean, they always work out to be going twice the speed in the end when they're recorded than what I've written. That's right, I mean, I've gotten used to it.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Oldham got Mick and I into writing songs because I never thought of doing anything more than playing a guitar. And Mick never ever thought any more than singing, you know. And it was Oldham that said, come on, you've got to get it together and start writing, you know.
Is it you then who draws this sort of Robert Johnson inspiration? You know, that he obviously wasn't going to last very long, he burned himself out. Is that how you feel about writing about yourself?
No, I mean, I don't feel that particularly about it. I'm too sturdy. But I felt that about Brian. I mean, everybody did, and everybody knew that. Even Brian felt it, you know, that he wasn't going to be around that long, you know. And although it was a shock when it actually happened, nobody was really that surprised, you know. There are people, I mean, I'm sure that everybody's got those feelings about certain people. Everybody knows people that you just have that feeling about it. They're not going to be 70 years old ever, you know. Not everybody makes it, you know.
Thank you. It's one more day of the Australian tour, and at Montsalvat, the second and last press conference in Australia. Despite the security guards posted all around the property, no one even attempted to break the security. The castle was built by 1930s Melbourne bohemians who'd be pretty bored at today's press conference come party. The commercial television stations try to put some life into it.
There is a story going around that you someone tried to smuggle some pot into the country. Is that
who did? What kind of pot?
I don't understand.
Chinese pot, or is that? I don't understand the question. It's not true.
I don't understand the question.
I thought the question was quite plain enough.
Someone was trying to know. I don't understand the question. No, I'm very sorry, sir. There was nobody trying to smuggle pot into the country. Phone up anybody you want.
Mr. Grassley, our immigration minister the other day,
ask him. Phone him up and
defended you very strongly and came out very much in your favour. What do you think of him?
Well, he was saying, for instance, one important thing that he wanted to put across was that Australia wanted to be part of Southeast Asia, which is very what's the word?
Admirable.
Admirable, I thought, you know, after years of isolation. I mean, I hope, the only way I can see that happening is if more Southeast Asians come here. Because it's very difficult to be part of Southeast Asia when you don't understand that mentality. But he was very nice. Never said in that story. It never. So, you know, if you start on that, you know, that's why I was so rude to you, because you started on that. If you want to follow up in TV journalism what rubbish they dish out in the press, then you're pretty low. So watch out, boy.
The Australian press certainly tried to find the sensational headlines. In Auckland, Mick's hotel bed sheets auctioned for $400. 2 ounces of grass-like substance found in the charter plane carrying the Stones' equipment to Brisbane. But there was no direct link with the Stones, and the issue was dropped. Back on page 1 in Adelaide, 40 fans arrested as a crowd of 4,000 tried to storm one of the concerts, but no really big news. And in Sydney, some last desperate headlines before the Stones departed: forged tickets at the Sydney concerts.
Individually, or you can do it collectively if you wish to begin with.
Les Perrin is the man who tried to keep things in perspective with the press. He's been 7 years with the Stones. He's followed the change in the public's attitude towards them.
We did notice 2 years ago that people listen a lot more to the music than they waste their energies on extrovert exercises of for their own benefit. They like the music and they listen to the music. They get involved in the music. And again, reverting to Auckland, all these thousands standing with their hands above their heads, clapping in time with the music. Some of them singing along as the lyrics of things like Jumpin' Jack Flash and so on. It was something quite unique, and I don't think there's any decline in the excitement. It's just channeled in a different direction.
No,
I come from music.
Do you think that whole hysteria thing is dying down now?
No, not really, because they haven't been out here, for ages.
Have you ever been to a rock concert where that whole hysteria thing has happened in Australia?
Yes.
What group would it have been?
Oh, Joe Cocker.
I've been a Rolling Stones fan for years, and they're really good. They've slackened off slightly. I like their older music, but I still really like them.
What about going to the hotel? Would you prepare to sort of find out where they're staying and try and see them at the hotel at all?
No, not really. It'd be too much bother.
You don't think it's worth it then?
Oh, probably is if you knew how to get there and everything, but I can be bothered.
What would you be looking for if you went there anyway?
Mick Jagger.
Oh, you go and see Mickey Jagger, don't you? You like Mickey Jagger, you go and see him.
I think that most people came for the music, and that's what I came for, and for all the kids that are around. You can see that there are millions of kids.
You know, we're not out to take over the country or the world or anything else, man. We're just rock and roll musicians, and that's all we are.
Yeah, I think the Mafia had an easier job to get in here than we would.
No one's speaking. Are we on speaking terms or not? I can't see you very well.
Yep.
It's been a long time on the top, though, hasn't it? Don't you feel that the tripping is starting to grind down or not?
The tripping is grinding down. Well, we're happy, you know, really. We've been working very hard since 1969 as a band on the road, and we've worked a lot.
Thank you, Peter.
We did a long tour in 69, we did a lot of touring in the 70s, and we've been touring every year.
Well, Mick has asked us to talk to other members of the band because he tends to be the figurehead. So we've got your records of something happening in the background, as a matter of fact, which is a great help. If we talk to you, Keith, this, you know, with respect, you look a bit like the wreck of the Hesperus with the kind of gear you're wearing. Is this something that you like to wear, or? Well, it's it's strange.
Is that
looking.
mythological?
No, it's not mythological at all. You look kind of different to what we expect of people to look. Is this the way you like to dress, or
maybe it's because you live down here and I live somewhere else?
Yeah, well, that could be so. But is there any reason? Why do you like to sort of dress like you do?
Probably for the very same reason you like to dress the way you do.
Which is what?
Don't tell me your reasons for dressing the way you do. You know?
I think that's a personal question. We all have little sort of disagreements. We haven't had any violence since 1965, I think.
What happened in 1965?
Was that the chicken? Someone stole someone's chicken sandwich. That was the last fight we had. I think when the Led Zeppelin came, they were like searched and everything. I mean, they weren't bust because of that, but they were searched by the police, you know. I mean, and almost every band has come to Australia, I've been told, has gone through this, you know. But that was with the other government, so we hope, you know, that.
Australia doesn't have a good reputation as far as bands are concerned.
No.
As far as hospitality. You're known as the most inhospitable country to visit.
I mean, not the people. I mean, we're talking about officially. You know.
Mick, the Japanese government rejected your application for a visa. Why is it that you particularly wanted to go to Japan?
Well, I mean, it was just part of we'd never been there, you know. So we thought it was obviously a place to go, you know. And we heard they wanted to see us, so we thought we'd go. We thought we'd do Hawaii, Australia and Japan.
With touring generally, do you feel that it is necessary for you to continue touring, or is it something you feel is a responsibility towards the people that want to see you?
it's a responsibility to the band and to the people. A band only functions properly if it plays before audiences and does live gigs occasionally, you know. Otherwise it's only working on half cylinders. You know. It's the way it is, you've got to do it.
It's one of the things that enables you to carry on, the fact that you're touring and playing before audiences. Apart from the fact that you enjoy it, you know, and the audience enjoys it, it also stimulates your record sales.
Yeah. When it comes to writing material, do you find that, you know, if you do too much touring, your writing falls down? And do you write on tour?
No, it usually increases actually.
Yeah, you get ideas, you know. You've got to play. I mean, it's key to before, you know, like if you don't play together, you get into this sort of studio-itis, you know, which you just
like
withdraw. Yeah, you withdraw
Yeah.
into yourself, you know, which is. You never get a chance. And look, quite often, like if you write a song, it only really develops properly when you played it on stage. You know, in the studio, it might be the first time you played it. You might do it a couple of days. You know, you might play through the number, rehearse it. But when you've been playing on stage for a year, it really develops. You know.
Do you feel that you're at your best as a live band?
Well, it's one of the things we do best. Yeah.
And as far as the Australian music scene goes, have you heard any of our local bands at all?
Not really. I mean,
Robin Gibbs.
I mean, only the ones that go to England, really. I mean, I've heard of Max Merritt, you know.
Yeah, well,
I've heard his records, and like the Easy Beats. I mean, this was all years ago. I mean, we haven't really heard anything new, you know.
And what about the band that'll be touring with your headband? I suppose
we haven't heard them yet.
Yeah. It's not a decision you make.
It wasn't actually. No. I mean, we just sort of left that up to the local, because we couldn't really like afford to bring a band, and anyway, might as well use, you know, local people.
Would you normally sort of participate in the choosing of a band to tour with you?
Well, yeah, in America, like when, you know, we have we know like the bands there, you know, so that we usually make a short list of bands and see who's available. You know.
This probably sounds like a curly one, but it's not intended to be. In about 15 years' time, 20 years' time, when you look back on your performance as the Rolling Stones, what do you think you'll have contributed to music?
A good laugh.
A lot of jumping about.
Do you ever think about the future?
Yeah. Like about 6 months ahead. You know, that's about all.
You never sort of think of, say, you know, 15, 20 years' time and what you'd like to be doing? No, man.
I mean, you know, you can't, you know. I mean, it just don't work like that, does it? You can think about it all you want, but it tends never to work out how you think. I mean, if someone had asked me 10 years ago if we'd be still together as a band, you know, I would have said no, you know. Obviously not, you know. How could we go for 10 years doing the same thing? But we still are, so I don't know what we're going to do.
There was some talk about the fact that the Australian government wasn't going to allow you to come, which you're quite aware of.
Yeah.
Was the change of governments here a factor that influenced your coming?
Well, no, it wasn't. We planned it before there was a change of government. You can't plan your tours on what government's going to be in power. I mean, you know, I really believe that, you know, bands and musicians and actors and ballet and opera and all that should be completely outside of government control and shouldn't have anything to do with it. If there's an audience for a play or a band or a singer, I mean, he should be able to come and play and work and sing and do what he wants, you know. That applies almost to everyone else. If he's a bricklayer too, I don't see why he shouldn't come here and do bricklaying.
People forget that we're only a rock and roll band. You know, we're not out to take over the country or the world or anything else, man. We're just rock and roll musicians, and that's all we are.
Yeah, I think the Mafia had an easier job to get in here than we would.
And what about the images attached to you as a band? You know, the sort of...
Well, image building and all that is something that either newspapers, press, you know, TV and all that they do. And also publicists do it, you know, of a matter of course, like record companies. I mean, this was a long time ago, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, if they'd set out to try and make us nice little boys, it would have been really difficult. Mm-hmm. So they might as well not go against the grain, you know.
Yeah.
Though some people would have it that we are, you know.
Were you sort of conscious that people were doing this to you all the time?
Well, not for a while. We were just working, you know. We weren't conscious of all that, you know. Like when you just want to make it, you don't really care, you know. You don't think about it. You just want to make it. You don't care what people say or what about you, really.
Right. Okay. Thanks a lot.
Still never asked Charlie a question. Well, they were, yeah. I mean, I didn't like either of them. I didn't go for it. middle or working or whatever. You're so dragged up in it as a kid that you can't ever really get rid of it.
Paging Mr. Leslie Perrin.
That's
Telephone,
you, mate.
please, Mr. Perrin.
That's nice, isn't it?
It's nice,
Big
isn't
Brother.
it?
It's a pity they don't have a camera. I think we were just ordinary, rough, nasty people. So it would have been very hard to make us nice. I mean, we just couldn't have done it, so we had to just go along with what they had.
Yeah, but you didn't really try and be nice, did you?
No, didn't really try and be nasty either, you know, just carried on without trying to be a hypocrite. Still do, really. I mean, I don't try and be nice or nasty or just try and be reasonably polite.
But your own image, Mick Jagger's image.
I don't believe in images, by the way. I mean, I believe in them, but I don't personally try and project any.
Yeah. Well, is it hard trying to live up to this image that people have of Mick Jagger?
No, because I don't try to.
Yeah. At all?
No.
No.
It's only press and media that like to have images because it's useful to put people into categories or project them as images like films. I mean, because like TV is an image projected onto a screen, often behind a screen. So you've got to have something to project on it, i.e. a personality, which is what TV is, like David Frost, right? So you work out what he is and what he is to the audience and sell it like a soap commercial. But I mean, we didn't really like that. So we weren't prepared to go along with that. That's why I don't believe in images. Though, I mean, I can see they exist. But images are reflections and I don't want to be one.
Well, how do you see yourself then?
Oh, that's the most difficult thing of all. I mean, that's what it takes your whole life to find out what you are. But I mean, I don't know.
But you're not this image that people have of Mick Jagger.
I don't know what that is.
Well, it's
a lot of things, you know, it could go up to make one person's personality. And so that you can be everything.
Well, it's the sort of sexy, evil, satanic.
You can be nice,
guy.
nasty, masculine, feminine, you know, all those things. And everyone is all those things.
Well, you've been all these things to young people, and you've had quite a considerable influence on young people in many ways. Did you feel anything about this influence? Were you conscious of having the influence on young people that you did?
No, I wasn't really. That wasn't my thing. I was just to play music, you know. That was my interest. I wasn't setting out to. But then we got all kind of bound up with it all, and like people would ask you what you thought of certain things, like abortion or whatever, you know. So you'd say what you thought about it, which I still do. Which they ask you what you're doing now, really. What you think of this and what you think of that. So then you say, well, you know, I'm not really equipped to answer that question. I will. So then you become noted for saying things.
But your songs, you know, those early songs of yours, I Can't Get No Satisfaction, all those songs, they kind of had a message, didn't they, for young people?
Yeah, well, that was what I felt like, and that's what they felt like, I suppose. Some of them, I mean, all of them. But that's what popular songs do. You know, and music's the same, because music's a touchstone which is indefinable, and words are more definable. Touchstone.
But do you see yourself in any way in your music as encouraging young people to, you know, use drugs, for example?
No, I never encourage people to use drugs in any song or in any interview. But I mean, you write about whatever you feel best able to write about, whatever you feel like, you know, what you know about it or how you feel. You write just emotionally, really.
Well, the Rolling Stones, and you were the first big pop group, to be busted for drugs in the UK, and it caused quite a lot of consternation and debate as to whether in fact it had been rigged. Looking back, do you think it was?
Oh, yeah.
Do you think you were being used as an example?
Absolutely.
Why do you think this was?
Well, it's rather complicated. It involved a lot of different people, and it just sort of snowballed. Oh, yeah, we were. But that's a long time ago now, so...
If you were to give, you know, advice, you're a parent yourself, to parents today about how they should react to
I'm not very
drugs.
good at advice, to giving advice as a parent.
Yeah.
You know.
But what would you say to parents about drugs today?
What would I say to parents about drugs? Learn about them, I suppose, is one of those things. I don't know. Is that a big problem in New Zealand?
Well,
Not
again,
really.
according to media, it's growing.
Well, you know, that's the thing about media. They tend to exaggerate things, so that it's like you keep saying, people say, is there going to be trouble at your concert? And the more they say there's going to be trouble, the more likely there will be. The more you say trouble, if I say, yeah, there's going to be a lot of trouble, there might be. Yeah. And the more people say, yes, there's going to be a big drug problem in New Zealand, the more there will be. I don't see any drug problem here. Don't seem to be. In the audience today, it seems to be a lot of very straight, nice, young people, I mean, having a good time. They didn't seem to be having any problems. There was no one carted off. There might have been one, I don't know. But, I mean, there wasn't like a lot of people who were like doped out of their minds and like, you know, being dragged off by St John's ambulance men or whatever the equivalent. New Zealand St John's ambulance men. It seemed to be all very well, so I don't think there's a great big problem here. But I mean, if you've got to know about drugs, like you've got to know about anything to deal with it. If you're a child who's a drug addict, I mean, you've got to know about drugs to be able to deal with them, because otherwise you're just talking from ignorance. It doesn't apply to your parents, that applies to your friends too.
But do you think people should be able to use drugs if they want to?
Should they be able? That's a very leading question. I refuse to answer that question on grounds it may incriminate me.
Fair enough. Sex is another thing that a lot of people...
Should they be allowed to use sex? Yes. What do you want to say?
Are you going to answer?
What do you want to say specifically?
That you've used. Again, being accused of using.
Of using
as
sex?
As a gimmick, yeah.
Oh, using sex, you mean on stage?
On stage.
Oh, everyone's done that. I mean, that's a sort of tradition. I mean, from before Mae West. I mean,
but you even got, you know, you're an exploiter of it rather than, you know...
Oh, I'm not an exploiter.
But
I'm just a singer.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a sex exploiter. I mean, I don't take my clothes off. I'm not a stripper. You were saying, miss. You were talking about women. You were saying about how nice they are and how they shouldn't be attacked. And
did I say that?
No, I did actually. No, I said that they should be equal to men, so that means they've got to be attacked as much. But anyway, carry on.
How should they be attacked?
Well, I mean, in every way, not physically. I mean...
You've attacked them quite a lot in your songs, haven't you?
Yeah.
Including, you know, parents as well, I think, and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, well, yeah. But women... Well, you know, women cause men a lot of trouble that they don't need. So you have to sort of stand up yourself. And, you know, it makes good for good songs, you know, all that trouble. That's only one of the only good things about women, you know. Apart from, you know, one of the great things about women is that they make you write good songs.
Well,
what would you write about? I mean, you know, holes in your trousers.
Another thing about women is that, you know, has been associated with the Rolling Stones is this business of groupies.
Groupies, yes.
Yeah. How much of this, in fact, is a product of the media, or is it true that the Rolling Stones...
Well, it's not only the Rolling Stones. I mean, it's every band. I mean, groupies means girls that attach themselves to groups. That's part of... That's been going on for longer than you and I have been alive, you know. I mean, these was all nothing new under the sun. I mean, there's big band groupies, you know. There's groupies on every level. There's groupies that go with roadies, you know. There's groupies that go with drivers. No, he's gone. There's groupies that go with security guards. But there's been always groupies, you know. In jazz, it's jazz and all that, you know. Just chicks that hang around with bands because they like it, you know. So they just hang around and like get in it and get involved and you know. That's it.
But the Rolling Stones, there's always been a lot of publicity about the groupie
there?
scene with the Rolling Stones.
Oh, I've not followed it myself. There's been a lot of groupies, you know. But there is with every band, you know. Really, you'd be surprised.
What do you think personally of groupies?
Well, they're usually
It's
very.
usually
I
a
like
chance to
them,
see
you
what you
know.
like about women.
I mean, I like them, you know. But I mean, they get very abused, you know, because they do put up with an awful lot of. I can't use the word, but they put up with an awful lot of. What do you say? Euphemism for. Excretion. Well, they put up with it, you know, and so they get kicked around and abused, which isn't very nice. They do get abused, and that is not too nice.
Why do you think they do it?
Do what?
Why do you think they follow bands like you?
I just said that because they like to be involved with what the band's doing, you know. They like to be part of it, you know. They like to be on the road. And if they're not on the road with one band, they'll be on the road with another. And they like it. They like that kind of life, you know, living in hotel rooms and just balling everyone. Can I say that? Is that a word that can be used on TV? That's what they like. They do like sex. I mean, really. I mean, and they like having sex with people that are well known. A lot of people like that. It's not only groupies. Be surprised. A lot of people like to think about going to bed with movie stars, you know. So these people just do it.
This is one of the problems of fame.
It's not a problem. But the problem is not to abuse them, because they're people, you know, and they're open to abuse.
Well, what happens to a pop group, to someone like yourself, Mick Jagger, when you get old?
When you get old, you're same as what happens to you, love.
Yeah.
You get old and you wash the dishes.
But as far as being a pop star, do you think you can go on, you know, for...
Well, a lot of people do, yeah. I mean, I didn't want to be a singer for longer than I thought it was just a sort of mild interlude in my collegiate career. But it ain't, so, you know. And a lot of people go on singing like Tony Bennett. I mean, how old is he? I don't know, blimey, you know. I don't really want to be like that. Frank Sinatra, how old is he? I mean, really. Maurice Chevalier, who's no longer with us, I mean, he went on forever. But I don't want to.
But do you think you will anyway?
No.
What would you do?
I don't know. And if I did, I wouldn't tell you.
Fair enough.
Is that the end?